Good morning. It's Pastor Martin, coming to you from the beauty of my backyard. This morning I'd like to read a couple of stories out of a book that we've been reading, Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History by Vashti Harrison. The first story is about Charlotte E. Ray, who was born in 1850 and died in 1911. Charlotte's father was a minister and abolitionist newspaper editor. Her mother helped slaves escape north on the Underground Railroad. Together they made sure that all of their 7 children had a college education. Charlotte definitely inherited the activist and proactive qualities from both of her parents. As a young woman, she moved from New York City to Washington, D.C., to study at the Institution for Education of Colored Youth. After completing her education, she began teaching at Howard University, training students to become elementary school teachers. But Charlotte had other things in mind. She applied to Howard University's all-male law school under the name C.E. Ray. The admissions committee was surprised to discover that she was a woman, but let her into the program nevertheless. She studied commercial law while teaching. It was a demanding workload, but in 1872, she finished the program and became the first African American woman to graduate from law school in the United States. She was only the 3rd woman of any race to complete law school in America. Many noted her skill and legal knowledge, but her gender and race prevented her from having a true shot at building a career. For several years, she attempted to establish a practice, but was unsuccessful. This setback did not stop Charlotte from making an impact. She returned to teaching, this time with young students in the public school system. She was an advocate for women's right to vote and a delegate at the 1876 National Woman Suffrage Association. She is remembered as a pioneer, and her legacy lives on in Charlotte E. Ray Award, given to a promising African American woman law student every year. The second story for today is about Ida B. Wells. She was born in 1862 and died in 1931. Ida was a natural-born activist. Wherever she saw injustice, she stood up against it. She was born a slave in Mississippi, but emancipation came to the South when she was still a child, and this meant she had opportunity to get an education. After college, she worked as a teacher, but lost her job for criticizing the poor conditions of the black segregated schools. In 1884, 71 years before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, Ida refused to leave her seat in the woman's car on a train in Memphis, Tennessee. She had purchased a first-class ticket, but was asked to leave and join the African American car. Ida did not go quietly. She filed a lawsuit against the railroad and eventually won her case. There was no rule that said black women could not ride in the women's car. However, segregation legislation was soon implemented in Tennessee, and Ida received no further justice in the matter. 3 years later, her case was overturned. She took her frustrations and wrote an article in the newspaper under the name Lola, and later became known as Lola, Princess of the Press. Journalism became her outlet. She was the owner and editor of the Memphis Free Speech and Headlight, and later the Free Speech. She took a major stance against lynching and faced death threats for her words. In 1898, she led a huge anti-lynching campaign all the way to the White House. Ida knew the power of words and knowledge and continued to use her voice to stand up for what was right. I hope you have enjoyed learning about these bold, powerful women in the history of our country.